roger de va, oh alle, oh roger de va, oh alle, oh roger de va, oh alle.
Hello humans and any potential non-humans, Gita Rose here. Thank you for tuning in. So today is November 2nd, 2018. So a happy belated Halloween to you all, a Merry Samhain, a Merry Allhallowtide, a Merry Hallowmas, a Merry All Saints Tide. What does hollow mean? Hollow is an old Irish, English, Anglo word for spirit, for divine, for holy. The topic of Halloween and of all of these different holidays, honestly, that have been transformed and hidden and commercialized, is honestly quite a soft spot for me. And the last few days I've been in a lot of service. Tomorrow Saturday time. Wednesday, our traditional Halloween, October 31st, I spent the day in service for the community, putting together a video of a channeled session of Bella. And I spent all day with her and in the frequency, and we were picking pictures together, and she very much helped me edit the video, me and my higher self in communication with her. But I was very much in service. And then I went to the restaurant where I work, again, very much in service. I did get to dress up, and I did get to make some little altar for myself to honor the ancestors and the new year and the passage of time in this way. But I also honestly really felt as though I didn't really get a chance to celebrate. I didn't get to go out, or not that I even go out and go drinking and go to parties. It's not necessarily what I want to do on these gateway days. But to be able to have some sort of a ritual for myself, I felt like I didn't really get the chance to do that. But then I started really feeling and listening to what Bella had said through me, saying that traditionally the honoring of Halloween or Samhain, and what does Samhain mean? No one really knows, actually. The Irish language is extremely mysterious, and even now, today, there's a lot of discrepancy. You go from county to county, or from how they say things in Dublin is completely different, perhaps, than how things are said in Donegal, or it used to come from one root language, but now I don't think that Scots Gaelic and Irish Gaelic could even have a communication with each other in this now. So there's a lot of mystery and a lot of spells that are encoded in these very ancient Celtic languages. So what is Samhain? As far as I could deduce, it simply enough means November, which is a confusing concept, because what does November mean, right? Then you got to look at what November means. And as far as I can tell, November translates essentially to 9, the month of the 9. In the old Roman calendar, November was the 9th month because they started it in March, like the Ides of March, Julius Caesar, all this kind of, interesting ways of creating the systems, right? It also has connections to some etymologists and some linguists who are thinking the dark and the light coming in, the actual word itself meaning that, or the opening of the death, the opening of the otherworld, which I think is probably more so what Samhain actually means. But so much has been lost throughout our history, especially in regards to these Celtic cultures, that were pre-Christian. So we'll get into that a little bit, but I was listening to Bella and what she was really saying about Allhallowtide, or the All Hallows Eve time frame actually being a few days. And we usually only recognize it, at least in America, as October 31st, Halloween. You get dressed up, you go out and party, and that's it. But traditionally, and in some Latino, Hispanic cultures, Mexican cultures, it's still observed for a window. And I was trying to find if there was a pre-Christian celebration within the Mexican culture, and I couldn't really find an answer. So a lot of these holidays were merged, right? We all know this. But I was really feeling into this gateway, this window being open for 3 days. And I've read in previous years that also there is a special honoring, like the closing of it on November 3rd. So we're still very much in this gateway, in this opening, in this veil lifting, in this ability to commune with the ancestors and the other world. So once again, I feel like this video is a little scattered and a little all over the place, especially with this particular topic, because I do get very emotionally activated and I'm still processing through the emotions, and I don't even know 100% where they're coming from, but I know that I'm tapping into ancestral lineage, and I'm tapping into information and spells and coding that are important to all of us, irrelevant of what nationality we come from. And I think especially those of us that are interested in contact, in connecting to ETs, to aliens, to the 5th dimension, moving more so into 4th density. It's always Allhallowtide. And like, I didn't even know that was a word. You know, like, I didn't even know that there were words like Hallowmas, Merry Hallowmas. Like, I would love to celebrate Hallowmas. And it to be like a 3-day extravaganza, to be able to truly sink into this honoring and to commune with the veil being open. And it's not talked about in our culture at all. It's the one day, and even those of us that are spiritually connected, that are in this community, we go Merry Samhain on October 31st, most of us, and that's it. And because I was in the act of being in service or working, but it really didn't feel like that. Like, yeah, there was a part of me that was kind of bummed in a way to not really have enough time, in a sense, to focus on myself. But I knew that I was making a choice, and I knew that I was doing what I wanted to do, and I was being paid to be of service. And so it didn't really feel like working. But especially having this permission slip in a way of then being shown where there's more days. There's more time to honor this. So having a few extra days to wallow in the hollow, I began thinking more so about the actuality of the Celtic perspective during these days. The pre-Christian perspective. The story that we are told now as to where our traditions come from, the dressing up, the trick-or-treating, was because what we are told that the Celtic peoples would dress up and give offerings to the spirits, to the Fae, to the Denashi, to the ancestors, to the ghosts that were able to be more so in the physical world. But in actuality, before of everything, I don't think that the Celtic peoples would have been in fear. And I want to state, I in no way wish to judge or demean anyone who practices or aligns with any traditional religion, especially from Christianity or Catholicism. I don't have any issue with Jesus, but I don't think that Yeshua would have preferred the church very much at all. And I feel like if you're watching this video of mine, like, you're probably an understanding of this, but I just want to state that I do think it's very possible for people to be involved in a traditional Christian mindset and be very lovely people. But what the Roman Empire accomplished in 2,000 years is horrific and impressive. So I don't think the Celtic peoples would have been in fear, in actuality, of this time frame, of this passage. They had a very different experience and relationship to death, and it's still encoded in our words today, in our spells, in our language today. So the birth was celebrated in the morning. The mourning happens in the morning. The birth was a very solemn, reverent experience. They held a space for a child coming in, a soul choosing to come in to a denser reality. They knew it was a denser reality. They knew that more so the spirit was dying by being born. So the mourning of the birth happens in the morning. The light, the sun, the birth, right? The coming of but in their ancient perspective and mind frame, it was the morning of the morning. And then the death or the passing is celebrated then by awake. Awake! You're going back to the wake. You're waking up. You're going awake. Oh, we'll throw you awake. And it was celebrated. It was a raucous party, and still is in a lot of Irish tradition. And just so everyone knows, I do feel like a big part of me is why I do get so emotional is my ancestry is Irish and also Hispanic and Mexican. So my DNA is coming from both sides, both cultures having a long-standing celebration of this time, and probably not even knowing why they were doing what they were doing. Like, my ancestors didn't even know why they were celebrating things. We still don't. But it's very much seeped in both sides of my family, and I am forever grateful. So they had a very different perspective of what was life and what was death. It was almost reversed, right? This much I know, this much you can kind of find online. But when it comes to Halloween, or when it comes to Samhain, or this time frame, it's very much pitched, the story is pitched in a fear-based way. But I really don't feel in my gut, in my soul, that they would have had a fear response to this. And I also don't think, that it was all hedonistic, and I do know that some of this was, yes, there, and at different times there were the harvest and the sacrificing of their animals, but also again, like, I don't think that our history is accurate. I don't think that our his and her story has been presented to us, especially around this time frame, about these types of people, these pre-Christian connections. We are not given the real story at all. We're also told that Irish was a spoken language and that nothing was written down until the Middle Ages. Again, from research that I've done, that's not so. Irish was a very elevated, widespread language, widely spread language that has amazing, unexplainable connections with Sanskrit. A lot of the gods, the deities, the mythology is like the same and it lines up, and a lot of the words completely line up. So Irish is an extremely ancient language, but all of the records are kept in, for the most part, in Cork College, which used to be called the Queen's College, which is very much owned and run and operated by the British, or by aspects of the cabal, I guess we could say. And their flag is literally a skull and crossbones, which is great. Once again, I will just state for the record, it would be my honor to have my YouTube channel shut down before I reach 300 subscribers. I can't talk today. I'm like, it's good, it's fine. So yeah, there's a huge library in Cork's College that has a lot of these extremely ancient Irish writings, and also, of course, the Vatican. I really am like all over the place today, and I can't form words appropriately, but that's fine. I'm just like vulnerable, showing my heart. It's all good. It's all good. So, especially for those of us that are interested in ET contact, contact with the fifth dimension, other dimensions, this can be a really interesting gateway for us to create our own permission slips, to create our own rituals, to tap into what it means to have this veil thinned in actuality, what it means to be able to interact that much more with what we call the other world, is the fifth dimension. It's the same level, it's the same realm, it's the same type of experience. It's the dimension where Bashar says that the Sasani Shikani are transitioning into the fifth dimension. And I know like the scale is different. I know people, some people think of this as the sixth dimension, or I don't know, like whatever. I know that we're all kind of talking different languages about this, but regardless, what I'm saying here is that within the same dimension, within the same realm that we classify the other world, that is also then where different ETs have been since the beginning of time. And our ancestors are ETs, aliens, that are having their version of a somewhat physical, not, spirit physical incarnation, also then in combination with being with the human ancestors that have crossed over. I had a vision dream, this was maybe about 8 months ago, where I saw my grandmother, my aunt, and my other aunt on a spaceship in the Shikani Sasani realm, like hanging out with the hybrids. And I was like, what? But then the part of me was like, oh, yeah, like they're in the same realm. Whoa, like I never, duh. But it was such this like aha moment, because I think our minds have been really trained to think of it as two separate ideas. And so this just brought up questions within me the last few days of what that can mean for us and for our new generation, and for those of us that are interested in contact in this way. So like I said, there's a lot of traditions, there is a lot of activities and things that we do around this time of year that we don't even know why. And again, I know that I get very emotional around this, because this for me is, traditionally it's the turning into the darkness, it's a new year, it's a transformation, and it's also the opening of the holiday season in a way. And for the next few months, most of our Western society kind of gets caught up in celebrating the holidays and doing these things that we don't even know why we're doing it, or the traditions where it comes from, and more of us are finding the traditions, the traditional traditions, and honing in on where it all comes from and building our new relationship to it. But the next few months usually are very intense for me. So in particular, the one thing that we do that I'm fairly certain most of us don't know where it comes from, or we think we have an idea of the Jackolantern and why we do it. Most stories, again, the offering that is let outside for the spirits, for the fae, for the Denashi, also to create ghouls. There are things that look like ghouls, so the spirits would be deterred. Again, I think this is a fear-based story that is not in actuality the Celtic perspective. So there is the story of Jack. Jack is a trickster being. Jack is a wily character. He is the jokester of the village. And I think this story comes from post-Christianization, but within it has coding. They had to learn how to code their stories and their information, because you could be killed for telling certain stories. You could be killed for speaking Irish. So there's a lot, like I said, that's been encoded, and that is the spells and the spelling, right? So this is set up as a post-Christian story, but the symbolism is pretty easily found. So Jack is a trickster, and Jack is one day trapped by the devil himself, hung up in a tree, and is actually cunning enough to free himself from the devil's snare. And then even devises a way to trap the devil himself in the devil's own trap, hanging in a tree. And oh, how funny. And then he makes a deal with the devil, and Jack gets the better end of the stick and outwits the devil and lets the devil go back to his realm. And Jack is able to continue in his journey, in his trickster nature, and lives a very full life of being a walker of the grey and a walker of both worlds, and is in ways very much revered by the Irish and by the Celtic because he is non-conforming and is able to ride the line and be in his version of what is divine. But then he crosses over, and it's time for Jack to go potentially to heaven. And the keeper of the all pearly gates sees Jack and sees his blueprint and sees what he is, and oh, no. My Jack, no, you are far too dark to be allowed into heaven. So, bing, elevator down. And Jack then finds himself in the realm of the devil, in the underworld. And he's being checked in, and the devil comes out himself and says, no, I remember you. Woo, I remember you. No, you are too bad even for hell. You can't even be here. So he is deemed not worthy enough for heaven, not good enough for heaven, but too bad for hell. And so Jack is deemed to walk in this middle ground, to walk in the limbo. But to the Celtics, he's seen as a hero. He's seen, again, as someone who is able to find that middle line and to be a light for a previous time, a light for different ways of telling story. And so it's said that the gourds, traditionally they were gourds. They didn't even have pumpkins in Ireland and other Celtic countries that I do think celebrated this because everything was connected and they were all talking to each other in different ways that we don't talk about now. But they would carve these gourds and light them in honor of Jack, the Jackolantern, to help him navigate this middle ground and to show honor for someone that didn't completely conform to the status quo of that time. So I've got to stand up for this next part. I had the pleasure and the joy of spending a few months in Ireland when I was 20 over 10 years ago. And this was before my true awakening, before my unraveling, but I know that it helped lay the foundation for where I am now and certain understandings and activations. And I was in a pub in Donegal, Ireland, and during a session, a music session, in a snug. And at the end of the night, traditionally they will play the Irish national anthem, and everyone stands up and everyone sings. This was in a Gaelic area of Donegal. And I didn't know the words. This was one of my last nights. I don't know Irish, I don't speak Irish. And I was with a raucous group of young Irish gentlemen that we closed down the bar that night till very wee hours of the morning. Because they made me learn the Irish national anthem. They said, you can't go home until you learn the words, our version of the words. So I know a very specific version of the Irish national anthem. It's the only Irish song that I know. I'd love to learn more. The music that I'm going to put in here is from Seo Linn. I think I'm saying that right. I didn't ask for permission to use this, but I feel as though they won't mind the music at the beginning and the end of the video. So thank you, Seo Linn, for being who you are and doing what you do, and bringing the Irish language more so to the forefront for all peoples, because like I said, there's coding, there's spells in it. Sing la foil. Nagen brutagen geren, boinder slår sig tändare nagon, beivech betyrd, skentyrd fasta, frial goil, frial and taffen trial, anak the hems of wine boil, vi oshendo don boshno so, via babakle, riavak dobile, shankani obranvan. I also had someone share with me, thank you, Karen Miller, for always taking care and sending me your awareness of synchronicity, that October 31st is also National Doorbell Day because of all of the trick-or-treaters. Bella shared with us that the name for her realm that she's playing with in this now is Adorapan, a door open, a door is opening to Adorapan. And of course her name is Bella, and bell and doorbell and ding dong, you're gonna open the door. So yes, I am opening the door, and Bella has expressed to me that this year things may be a little cattywampus and I may be feeling a little ungrounded and a little unsure and a little inarticulate, but in the years to come, Samhain will be a day that she really enjoys to celebrate with us and to ring all of our bells and to encourage us to keep opening more and more and more doors. A very sincere thank you to all my subscribers and my new subscribers, and to all of you who continue to support and encourage me. I sincerely appreciate it. And again, thank you for sticking through this video. Again, I feel like this one was very haphazard, as I am very emotionally activated by it, and in ways, like I said, I'm still downloading and I'm still putting the pieces together, but sharing in this way seems relevant. So a very merry Allhallowtide to us all. It is still occurring. It is always occurring. It is ultimately inside. Our minds may be different. Our bodies may be different. But it is through our hearts that we know our spirits are one. Aloha!